Hello, and thank you for tuning into the pod. The next few episodes will be a little different because Endgame is on the way, and I didn't want to just recap every movie for 21 podcasts. I didn't want to tell you which movies to watch before Endgame because I did that for Infinity War, and I see a lot of people are just watching a movie every day, and I didn't want to do that. So instead, I just decided to group the movies together, not in phases. I haven't talked about like Iron Man 1, or Iron Man 2, so I grouped them: the Iron Man Trilogy, the Cap Trilogy, the Thor Trilogy. I did it like that because it gives me a chance to talk about the things that I liked in those movies and I disliked in those movies. So it's just my thoughts on all the Marvel movies, but rolled up into about 10 podcasts, not 21. So I hope you guys enjoy and listen, like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get to it. It all started with Iron Man, so I had to do an Iron Man trilogy first. I remember where I was at when I watched the first Iron Man movie. My school, they had a computer lab they just put in like these Mac computers that nobody messed with. So one day I just started messing with it, and I remember Iron Man was coming out, and I wasn't too excited about the announcement of the movie because Iron Man wasn't the character that everybody loved. Everybody loved the X-Men, everybody loved Spider-Man. I love those cartoons. The Iron Man cartoon wasn't that great. So when they announced Iron Man, I was like, are you serious? And this is before I knew about all the rights and everything, that Marvel had to go through. So the trailer came out, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool. It might work. So when the movie came out, this is before I was going to the movies like that. So of course, found a bootleg on a site, and I was in the lab on the Mac, the big joint, like just watching the movie. Then I watched it. I went to lunch and then came back and watched it again. Like, that's how good it was. And it was just different. It was different from all the other movies that came, like all the other superhero movies that I've seen before. It just worked. And again, this is before we knew we would get all these movies. It was just a cool movie to watch. So Iron Man just established the character. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was amazing in the role. He was funny, but when he got captured, you could just see the acting come through. And for me, it hooked me right from the start. Like, whatever other movie they was coming out with, I wanted to see. You got your introduction to Shield, which is kind of strange now that Captain Marvel came out, because Coulson was saying the full name of Shield when in the Captain Marvel movie Nick Fury just said Shield. So I don't know if Coulson is just weird like that, but Shield comes into play, and you have Rhodey, a different Rhodey, but it was good seeing him in the movie, and even the line when he was like, next time. And of course, that was a foreshadow to Iron Man 2, which I'll talk about soon. But in terms of the first movie in the MCU, it still holds up. If it's on TV, I'm sitting there and I'm watching it no matter where it's at. And it was just cool seeing him come up with everything for this suit. Probably one of my favorite scenes is when he first goes into battle, and then the Air Force is looking for him, and he calls, and then Rhodey calls him like, are you testing something? He's just like, I'm running. And then he says he's driving with the top down, and then he calls Rhodey back and says, it is me. It's me in the suit. I thought it was just a cool scene, because everybody was wondering, what is it? Is it a person? Is it a bogey? Like what kind of thing is it? So in terms of a first movie, it's a very strong showing. And they believed in their product. I didn't even know about the Nick Fury, after credit scene the first 2 times I watched it, because, it was a bootleg. So somebody told me, like, probably months later, like, yo, you seen the Nick Fury thing? They doing the Avengers. And I was like, what? So it still holds up for me. It was in my top 5 for a long time, MCU movies. I have to redo that list, but it's one of the best just intro movies for a character. Iron Man 2, I like Iron Man 2. I appreciate it for what it is. It's not Iron Man 1. We know that. But it was a way of showing the conflict of the character, especially at the end of Iron Man 1 where he just announces, I am Iron Man. And, the movie goes off and you're wondering, like, what does that entail? Like a guy saying, a rich person saying that he's a superhero. Like, what happens? And you see him get attacked at the racetrack, and it's a target on his back. Maybe, the villain wasn't that great, but you did have Justin Hammer. He was funny, and you can see people trying to copy the Iron Man tech. But you also get cool gadgets like the briefcase suit, because, he always had to be prepared to transform into Iron Man because he put a target on his back, essentially. But more importantly, you saw, because in the comics, he has substance abuse problems. He's a drunk a lot of in different comics. So they wasn't going to go down that road in the movie for a long period of time, but they show that when he's drunk and he has the suit on, he's throwing a party, and Rhodes comes in and they have a fight. It shows him struggling being a superhero. Not only with the thing in his chest trying to kill him, the sharp metal trying to kill him, but just the weight of the world being a superhero. Just him being drunk, him sitting on top of the donut and everything, talking to Nick Fury, the introduction of Black Widow. It was a solid movie for what it was trying to do, because again, this is different. It was setting something up for us. So I appreciate the movie for what it is. It's not the greatest sequel, but it's an okay movie. Before I talk about Iron Man 3, I'll throw in The Incredible Hulk, because yes, despite how many times people want to get rid of this movie, it is a part of the MCU, and I enjoyed the movie. I did go see this one in the theater, and Incredible Hulk was okay. It was better than the other Hulk movie that came out a few years before that. I like the opening sequence with him trying to keep himself calm, and he gets jumped and everything like that, and he's working on his breathing. You can see he's trying to control it, and then when he changes, things go to hell. But I like the Abomination. I like that whole dynamic of everything that was going on. I thought Ed Norton was fine. It was weird that they fought in Harlem, but the after credit scene was a really good one. Iron Man says they putting together a team, but people try to erase the Hulk from their memory, but it's there, and it's one of the worst MCU movies, but still it's there, and some scenes are enjoyable, others are not. I don't know exactly what they were doing with the leader, but I just thought I'll talk about that briefly. Moving on, Iron Man 3, and this may be a hot take, but I freaking love Iron Man 3. I don't see why people hate it so much. I love Iron Man 3, like really, really love Iron Man 3. It takes place after the Avengers, and he's the first character to get a trilogy, rightfully so. And for me, just like Iron Man 2 played the part of showing how he's dealing with announcing that he's a superhero, Iron Man 3, it's showing him dealing with the PTSD of going through the wormhole of aliens attacking Earth. He wasn't used to that. Cap wasn't used to that. Black Widow wasn't used to that. Hawkeye wasn't used to that. Thor's the only one who's like used to aliens. Hulk, you can't ask him anything. And the fact, not only did they fight all of those people in New York in front of his building and everything, he went up there in space and saw the ship and saw more of them, and that affects a person. And it was good seeing that, and the fact that he had all these extra suits, so that means he was preparing just in case something else happened. He was prepared. He had so many suits, and again, he gets attacked. And I thought it was great that it showed that although he was building more suits in case of battle, they took him out of the suit for long periods of time to show that the suit doesn't make the man. Like at the end when he blows up everything. So like, although he was preparing for whatever was to come, but the fact that he was attacked and his suit was damaged, he was moving around on foot a lot, and I really appreciated that they did that in this movie. To show that he can still do stuff outside of the suit. Granted, the suit helps, tremendously, but he wasn't just relying on the suit. At the end when he called them all in, of course he needed it to do what he had to do. Pepper Potts got some more shine. It was cool seeing her in the suit as well. Rhodes got more shine. He got a upgrade and everything. It was good seeing him fight. But Iron Man 3, it's funny. It was a lot funnier than the other movies. Even Happy got some time, even though he got beat up. But it is not the trilogy that Captain America is, but the Iron Man trilogy for me is very important to the MCU, and it shows how a character has changed over the years. Just not like Cap was trying to understand the world again, but Iron Man, he had the world at his fingertips. He was rich already. He had everything he wanted, and he made himself a superhero. And he put that target on his back, and he stepped up, to do the right thing, when he had to. He stepped up, and I know part 2 is going to get bashed a lot, and I know some people didn't really like what happened with the Mandarin in part 3. And for me, with the Mandarin, yeah, it would have been cool to have him, but I don't think Marvel wanted to go that route, because the 10 rings, have like these special abilities and superpowers, and they probably could have changed it, but maybe they didn't want to go that route yet, because he's not just super smart, the Mandarin. He does have these super abilities with the rings that have to be on a certain finger and everything like that, and maybe Marvel didn't want to go down that route just yet, but now with all the other cosmic stuff happening, maybe they could reintroduce that character or something, or the real character. But for me, it's not like the Mandarin is Apocalypse or Magneto or Doctor Doom, like one of those villains, that they, that people really know and love. So they used his name, and honestly, the comedy, it worked for me. I really enjoyed it, but I can understand that. I can understand hate on that part, but overall, as a movie, Iron Man 3 for me, it's a good, I guess a last part of the trilogy. I don't know if they're going to do Iron Man 4, but for me, three works. As a trilogy overall, I would say one is the best. Then I will go with 3, and then I will go with 2. So those are just my thoughts on Iron Man, the Iron Man trilogy. As far as villains, I know Justin Hammer wasn't a big villain. He was secondary, but I really liked him in Iron Man 2. Just his cockiness and the way that he was a failure in a lot of ways, but he didn't care. He just always went 110% in everything that he did. The other villains weren't as memorable. Killian in 3, he wasn't as memorable. The Iron Monger or whatever in part 1 wasn't that memorable, but for me, Justin Hammer was a character that it'd be cool to see him come back in some way in the MCU. But my ranking: Iron Man 1, Iron Man 3, and Iron Man 2. What are your rankings for the Iron Man trilogy? What did you love? What did you hate? Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more MCU movie breakdowns. Deuces.